This national cross-country bike racing action is proudly brought to you by Pepsi Plastics, in association with Yamaha and KTM. We're out at Rhino Park to get ourselves ready for round number 2 of the Championship Racing Series. It was 7 months ago we were up in the mountains of Lesotho. Now we are just outside of Bronkhorstspruit. Based on the MX Legends motocross track, it's going to be an amazing day. And we've even seen a couple of change of sponsorships. That's how long it's been since we went racing. Huge numbers coming in here as well. In fact, surprise numbers just after the racing weekend, the weekend before. And now we are good to go as all the main players try to get themselves back into the championship hunt and go out racing. The morning session will be made up of a 20-kilometer time trial loop to decide the racing order, and then the afternoon, the big loops. We caught up with the championship leaders before they rolled out. Lesotho was all about one man, Sharon Moore, at the top of the charts in the OR1s.
Yeah, it's crazy to think 6 months ago was the last time we had a national. It was my hometown of Lesotho, my first ever national win. One of the most awesome experiences of my life to finally tick that box. And through that, all of this has happened. You know, I got the call up from Francisco to ride for the Brother Leadertred KTM team, and it's an absolute privilege and honor to be here, and I'm just so looking forward to it.
For the OR2s coming out of the mountains was the multi-talented rider Brett Swanepoel. He should be an odds-on favorite today here once again.
Definitely coming here excited. I've been putting in a lot of work, so yeah, just looking forward to a good day. It looks like an awesome event, great venue. So for me, it's my first time racing here, so really excited to get things going.
And in the OR3s, Brad Cox in the mountains was on another level.
Yeah, we're just good to be back, eh? Thank you to MSA for being able to pull this off, and to the organisers, you know. But yeah, we're happy to be back off this long break and yeah, these strange times. But yeah, first round went great. I mean, we came in fully prepared and yeah, managed to take the win, and you know, nice to run up front on the small ball bike. So you know, this is kind of like a new season again. It's 2020 2.0 kind of thing. So same plan. I've had a really good, you know, I didn't really take any days off during this whole coronavirus break that we've had. So yeah, I'm ready to get out there. I think we've waited long enough, and yeah, just excited to go.
And championship leader in the high school 125s coming into this round, Dylan Cox.
Yeah, it's been a long time without racing. Lots of time to prepare. Yeah, but I'm stoked to be back racing, and I can't wait for it. Lesotho was actually my first ever off-road. I don't know what to expect coming into it, but the track really suited me. It wasn't too fast, it was quite technical, and that kind of suited my riding style. So yeah, I don't know, I just ended up fast on the day.
And up in Lesotho, Wade Blau started his championship charge for the seniors.
Yeah, Lesotho, oh, it was actually it was a little bit tighter than what I expected it to be, and then obviously the weather played a big part, you know, when it started raining. But yeah, we got a top 10 there and first in class, so you know, that's what we're going for. So hopefully this race we can do something the same. And never raced here before, and I see it hasn't rained here in a while, but yeah, we're all in the same boat, so let's see what happens.
And in the Masters, the big story up in Lesotho, Wayne Farmer started the season on his smoker. Now he's going to be rolling across onto the big 450.
Yeah, good to be back and all the rest, and yeah, leading the Master Champions. Obviously we've only had one national event and I won that, so we're in front, which is cool. Big change up is, yeah, after 30 years on a 2-stroke, we've upped it for the 4-stroke, so it's a big learning curve at the moment. We had our first GXCC last week, and yeah, not quite there. Very different riding, but yeah, at my age we need some new challenges in life. And yeah, let's see what we can do on the 450 today.
Time trial was going to be all important. At this time of year, just outside of Bronkhorstspruit, super dusty. A 45-minute open session, and strategy came into play nice and early for the 20k run. The clock of the course, Lloydie Brown, was out there just making sure everyone was playing the game. GXCC were running the event, and the riders were locked and loaded and good to go. Timekeepers, this was their time to shine, as Sharon Moore, the championship leader, now running in the factory KTM colours, would open up the account. Taki Bajorges went out next, and we went on board with him to check out how things were looking. The early part of the course was very motocross oriented. Remember, we were pitting just outside of the MX Legends track, so the early stages were for the motocross kids to get themselves nice and loose, and then you went out into some very tight and slow sections before the end of the course was extremely throttle cable stretching fast. Taki showing us how it all runs, and Kenny, back to what he says is almost full fitness, was going to be the rider to watch out for. Very much in the early part of the season, nursing his injuries. Lockdown would have been good for him. A lot of resting time, a lot of rehab, and everyone was watching Kenny to see what he could do on his big comeback. Brett Swanepoel was one of the next riders out of the gate to go and see what he could do, and was a huge threat going out into the OR2s. And the big man, Ian Pepper himself, racing in the Masters, who had a challenging time in Lesotho, was really looking forward to a track that was almost custom made for him. For Brett Swanepoel and the rest of the riders going out, they said the feedback was good, but you can see from the haze that the cameras are picking up. Dust was going to be the story of the day. Craig Alcock was out there still racing in his second full season on the Pro OR1s. Wade Blau was going to be one to watch out for sure. Just the fact that he races in the seniors doesn't make him slow at all. In fact, often running high inside the top 10s for the overalls. Brad Cox held back a little bit, and he was going to be a definite threat for the overall. He would want clear air in the main race come later on. And the 250 was going to be on the pipe once again. He was custom made for the track out here at Legends. Jason Fencer was also a rider to watch out for, but he has suffered some mechanicals in the early part of the season. He would want to at least get himself into a top 10 lockdown. For Brad Cox, it was just all show, as the big smile was definitely on his dial going out into the track. He was going to be under threat though on the season, as Dav Cocker was absolutely ripping it as well, now getting picked up by the Pepson squad. And for the high schools, Matty Wilson looked like he was going to be the big threat. Didn't enjoy taking that beating out in Lesotho from Cox. And then in the seniors, an unknown factor, the return of Dion Du Toit getting picked up by the CIT squad. He was going to be a big threat to Blau, certainly on a track like this. Back on board with Taki showing us some of the different sections. We were on board earlier for the motocross, and this was the more flatland sections. He said after the post-race interview, he did get into the dust, and the dust up the road was getting kicked up by the big 450 factory KTM of Sharon Moore. On board with Taki as he wrestled it all the way to the line. This was Kenny getting a big high five from the timekeepers to make sure that he was locked and loaded. His time was in the can, and this was decide the starting order for the main race, the all-important dust gap. Everyone wanted clear air to be able to run and hide. The 350s were running good out at Bronchies.
So the time trial went well. It was a 20k loop. Kyle and the team and the GXCC team put on an amazing track for us so far. It's very tight. We started on the motocross track, then we winded into the trees, and then we finished just here in the fields. You know, it was like a lot of twisty turnies, so I don't think it's going to be any mealy fields today. But yeah, well done to the guys, and I'm just glad to be back racing again.
In the fight once again for the OR2s, Taki was back on form. We caught up with him.
So very dusty time trial right there on Sharon, but kept it together. A few places was, yes, in the forest, the dust was just hanging the whole way and it was totally blind. So hopefully there's a bit of a gap when we get going with the racing, and the seating order is quite nice so that we can get a good race in. I'm hoping I didn't lose too much time in dust and can finish the race strong.
With the early part of the day wrapped up in a bow and the final senior national races coming into play, the track was clear and it was time to get ready for the juniors. The juniors would be going out onto the exact same loop that was used for the morning session, and this time it wasn't for time trial, this was for racing results. 20Ks of racing and everyone going out and chasing it. The man to beat in the 85s has been Kurbis Bester, and the man on the 65s has been Brandon Clark. They were going to be early gate picks and going out with the rest doing the chasing battle. Good to see little Mackenzie doing the chase down as well, and we went into the forest to see some of the more technical areas where the kids were going to be racing. Bit of motocross, bit of forest, bit of flatland, and plenty of fun. Nothing too nasty to catch the kids out. It was all about finding the flow. Little Nicole Duplessis was doing a good job out there as well, as she actually attended her first ever national, but there was no beating Baby Bester. The J212 rider was absolutely on rails. It was a decider to see who was going to take the win in the little 65s, who's become a very strong gate as well, as one or two of the riders figured things out. Remember, follow the orange. If you go wrong, it's green. And the riders know that. They turn back around and follow the orange, keeping it on the left and play on. One position lost. Back into the pits, it was Splash and Dash. This was Lost of the Mohicans, Hanyu de Kock, just getting some words of encouragement as he stayed on the game. With the kids having a pit stop, we'll take one as well. We'll catch you all up after the break. Before the break, we were out at the Legends MX track, basing us out also to go into the areas around Rhino Park, just on the edge of Bronkhorstspruit for round number 2 of the National Cross Country Bikes Championship, brought to you by Pepsin Plastics, Yamaha and KTM. With the time trial done, all eyes were on the queue. Vic Maharaj and Adrian Skoltz from MSA were keeping an eye on things. The deciding factor had been made. The queue was decided, the juniors were clear of the track, and now it was time for the big dogs to get the job done. This was going to be GPS backed. It was a marked track, but GPS backup was going to be key, and that has now become a rule for the National Championship for the last couple of seasons. Everyone now knew what their day was going to be. For the pro categories, 6 laps of just over 45 Ks awaited them. The man that went fastest coming out the time trial was this rider, the factory KTM man who's looking to nail down another championship. Jared Kutsia absolutely pinning it and came out of the gate meaning business. Kenny Gilbert, who said he'd gone relatively safe in the time trial, was going to be second gate, but he was the fastest of the 450s to go out. And then Charon Moore trying to decide what he was going to do. Was he going to throw it all down or play the long game? For Taki Bajaj's coming into racing form, it was going to be all or nothing. But the great situation for Jared Kutsia was a double-edged sword. Running the numbers out front, he had clear air, but he was also the rider who was trying to find the route. Kenny Gilbert was going to be getting himself back into that beautiful place that he likes to be able to charge up the order. Charon Moore, remember, championship points leader, brand new signing, and he was going to be one to watch out for as he now had a lot of company on his back wheel. Brett Swanepoel wasn't happy with his time coming in for the time trial. He would be charging up the order to try and figure things out. We go on board with Taki Bajaj's as we start out things on the track. The morning session was about time trials, so guys were still trying to figure out how the track goes. Now, going into the main race, they know exactly, coming out of the KTM start gate, what is around the corner and what they're going to be up against. Remember, they went out on sweet time. So if you qualified 5 seconds off the rider in front of you, you started 5 seconds off the rider in front of you, meaning things got pretty busy for a couple of riders. Brad Cox was definitely going to be a key rider to watch out for. He would be definitely bringing the 250 up and challenging inside the top 5. And the 125 was also a huge story. Matty Wilson had qualified the high school 125s inside of a top 10 overall, light years ahead of the rest of the chasing pack. In the OR2s, Rawl was decidedly slower than he wanted to be after a big crash in the morning shakedown. We now go into the first of the forest sections, where the guys have to use a little bit of cross-riding skills. This was also going to be a rider to watch out for, now getting picked up by Pepsin, and that was Dav Cocker. The brawler was going to be charging on the fast KTM 316, but he was in a lot of dust in the early stages of the event, making things a little bit tight, especially in the forest, where that Bronkhorstspruit sweet red dust just hangs in the sky, and you go blind. Taki, thankfully not in too much dust in the early laps, but also still trying to figure out where the track goes and how to get the best out of their machines. It was elbows in, but extremely fun racing in the Rhino Park area that a lot of the Gauteng riders use for their training in the off weekends. In fact, Dav Cocker was going to be one of those riders to watch. He was out here almost every weekend in the off season. So if there was a threat to the championship leader, Brad Cox, it was going to be that man. The rest of the riders made their way through the field. Also in the OR3s was going to be Ryan Peltzer. He was going to be a big threat coming off some good numbers in the off-season. And Carl McKenzie trying to just buy his way into a finish for the 125s. He's been dogged with mechanicals the whole way through the season. Eric Merry was going to be a rider in the mix as well, as we went back and checked out the rest of the start queue. It was all the national riders that would go out of the gate, 40 of them in all. And after all of the national riders cleared the gate, we started to think about getting the clubbies out into the dust of Bronkhorstspruit. Rhino Park and MX Legends giving us an amazing host venue, one of the best pit areas and facilities that we have ever had in national off-roads, and so cool to have a lot of the clubbies along for the way. We'll chat about the clubbies as well. They did race in the OR1, 2s and 3s and their age group categories, but they weren't going to be challenging for the national championship results. Wade Blau was still out there running the numbers on his machine and unstoppable as far as the senior gate goes for last season and this season. Peter Karam was the reigning GXCC OR3 champion and trying to find his way up the order in the OR3 category. with a couple of the juniors starting to make their moves up into different classes, and riders finding the edge of traction and control as they push the pace in the roost and dust at Rhino Park. This particular rider, Devin Smith from Middelburg. Championship leader in the high school 125s was way down the order as well, so it was going to be a tough day for Dylan Cox to try and figure things out, as Matty Wilson was way up the road. A couple of riders making some wrong slots and trying to figure things out. This time around, Quinton Fencer from Whole Shot Racing in Benoni, trying to get up the road to chase down his brother. And the big guy, Ian Pepper, also just figuring out, spotting the green flag and knowing that he had to turn right. Didn't lose too much time there, around about a 2-second loss, but still going to be challenging for a top placing in the Masters. Already, the first top riders were through and into the pits. It was going to be a long day in the saddle. 6 laps for the pros as we watched Sharon Moore roll out. And the dice for the OR3s was starting to heat up. Brad Cox had now got ahead of Davin Cocker on the road, and you could see the intensity was there as he fired his way out. A little bit of running repairs for the Pepsi Plastics Husky guys. And one of the smaller riders in the field definitely knew he was going to be in a dice now. Well within the top 10, but going to be chasing down on Brad Cox, and a little bit of extra time lost. Certainly, it was a decent-sized crash if you've got to straighten up the front end. We'll be keeping an eye on the Cox and Cocker dice as we go back out on track and pick up on the number 2. Jared Kutsia, unstoppable and extending off the front. At the end of lap number 1, it looked like Kenny Gilbert was closing him down, but on lap number 2 and 3, we saw Jared Kutsia completely pull the pin. He was going to be chased down on the day by Brett Swanepoel, who came into this round as championship points leader, so there was going to be a bit of moving and shaking. Same situation for the OR1s, as Sharon Moore was now in second place, chasing down on the back wheel of King Kenny. For the pros, the laps were counting down a long 6-lap race format, and for our clubbies, 4 laps. As they take a break in the pits once again, we'll take a break and see you afterwards. Back out into the racing and out of the motocross track in the forest, around about 35 kilometers into the loop. The track gets flatland, wide open and grassy, which takes the riders all the way to the finish. This is where we could actually look across the plains and see where the riders were lying. The big story was Kenny was still in good shape leading in the Pro OR1s, but there just seemed no catching on the back wheel of Jared Kutsia. He was a man in a league of his own. Sharon Moore was in a comfortable position at this point as well. He was running out inside of the top 5 and a comfortable number 2 spot for the OR1s, but he was about to get caught up by this dice on the track. Brett Swanepoel and Taki Bodgiages were absolutely ripping it. They found their groove and their rhythm as they were in a dice for second place in the OR2s, and they in turn were getting caught by Brad Cox, who was going to start looking over his shoulder very soon, because this was the dice on the road for first place in the OR3s. Cox was slowly getting caught by Cocker. That was one to watch out for. Ian Rawle, the brawler, had come through, and amazingly it took him almost half the race to make the pass on the leading high school 125 that was still Matty Wilson. Third place and a return to form for the previously injured JC Nienaber. Third place was probably going to be the best he could do. He was starting to fade towards the end, but third place back on the national pipe was going to be rock and roll for him. Jason Fencer at this stage was running on a 4th place in the OR2s, but would eventually suffer a race-ending crash. And then hanging on to a number 3 spot for the OR3s was Peltzer. At this point here, massive speed, and probably one of the only riders that actually was jumping through the little river in the mud there was Jazz Kutsia. He was extending off the front every single time, finding little bits of the track that were to his advantage. Even that section there, looks like Kenny lost around about 2 or 3 seconds just by playing the cautious role. Brett Swanepoel also coming in a little bit too hot, but finding the right track and then getting back on the pipe. He was charging his way up the order now. Looked like himself and Taki, by this point, with just 2 laps to go, had made the pass on Sharon Moore. So Sharon was starting to just play the championship game here, staying in the number 2 spot. Brad Cox was on fire at the moment as well. It wouldn't be long until he was on the back end of his teammate up the road on the 450. And then Peter Hull looked like he was in control of the race for the Masters. Peter Hull was coming through big time. Wayne Farmer, unfortunately, not his super aggressive self. This was the first time we'd seen him out on the big 454 stroke, and that old back injury, unfortunately, had come to club him. For the race leader, Jared Kutsia, 45 Ks. That was the end of the penultimate lap. He would go through the pit stop one more time, and then it was going to be all about celebrations. Championship leader coming into this round for the 125s, Dylan Cox, was just not having a good day at the office, and he was going to be losing his championship lead. For the seniors, Hunter Simon, who has made the full switch across from the quads onto the bikes, was also in some good numbers. And it looked like Pepper may be able to challenge at this stage for a top 3. Swanepoel was going to be out there to challenge him, also racing in the Masters class. Marty, just one of those diesel engines that keeps on going. Racing in the club class OR2s, Dion van der Merwe, tagging his number 35-kilometer marker as the rest of the riders making a bit of a hash of the late river crossings on the dry riverbeds. Remember, for the clubbies, this would be a very long, tough day. They ran the exact same track as the national races, meaning it was a 45-kilometer loop, and they had 4 laps on the can. With that said, though, the majority of the clubbies only tagged a 2 or 3 lap racing format. 1 or 2 riders just ran out of gas completely, though. For Lincoln Lutz, the flatlands, but rocks on the flatlands for him, was making it look like the roof of Africa. If you're gonna make a mess, make sure the camera's there. Standard option. On the last lap then, and absolutely pinning it to win it. He was not gonna get caught. Every single lap after lap number 1, Jared Coetzee was absolutely gone, but Kenny was keeping his nose clean as well. He was in 2nd overall and leading in the OR1s, with 2nd place and 3rd overall going to Brett Swanepoel. Himself and Taki Bodgiodges were building pace throughout the race, and that was gonna be 2nd and 3rd wrapped up in a bow. Championship points leader, 2nd on the day, will still keep him in the hunt, but he definitely lost some pace towards the end, was Charon Moore. The big story on the final lap, though, as they were tied pretty much elbows up, bars up, going on to the final lap, was this battle between Brad Cox and Dav Cocker. This one was going to be one that went all the way down to the line. In Roll came good towards the end of the race, but a slow time trial would have been his undoing on the event. And in the high school 125s, absolutely no stopping Matty Wilson or this man, Wade Blau, in the seniors. They were absolutely gone. Some amazing shots watching the last couple of kilometers on the open flatlands with the wind absolutely howling. And Jared Coetzee was staring down the barrel of a massive overall win and an outright win in the OR2s to put him on top for the championship. It was going to be a nail-biter for the rest of the season, as himself and this man, Brett Swanepoel, would go at it to try and decide the big number 1 plate. Both desperate to get the job done as we closed in on the end of round number 2 of the national championship. Between Lesotho and the flatlands outside of Bronkhorstspruit here at Rhino Park for Charon Moore, things couldn't have been more different. But he was only 1 position down from where he was. At the flag, though, Jared Coetzee came home with an emphatic win. Absolutely unstoppable.
I couldn't have asked for a better result today. A long trip up from the Western Cape on Thursday night, sleeping on the road, you know, trying to last minute getting everything ready, and just coming out here and just doing the best that I can. And today it was good enough. So I'm really happy with the results, and I'm just happy to have my mom and dad with me and a team behind me. It's just incredible, you know. I couldn't do this without them, and man, what a good way to start the season again.
Reboot to racing, and for this man as well, 2nd overall and the win in the Big Banger OR1s to King Kenny.
I wasn't meant to race this year. The doctor says I can't get back on a bike, so I'm just so happy for today. Lesotho was a tough one for me, so today I bounced back. I got 1st in OR1 and 2nd overall. Well done to Jared, he was flying all day, I couldn't catch him. But I just want to say well done to GXCC, Kyle Enslin, Ian Pepper for actually getting this race organised, you know, because without them, this race wouldn't happen. And then also my team, Peps and Plastic Husqvarna. This wouldn't be possible without them. But yeah, just a good day. Thanks to everyone.
3rd on the road and 2nd in OR2s was Brett Swanepoel, so he kept it nice. 2nd going in the Big Bangers was Charon, but the story on the day was this dice that came down to literally the final corner. Just a pass put it all the way in the hands of Dav Cocker, and Brad Cox had to take the number 2 spot after 400 Ks of racing. What a dice.
It was hectic. I came off on the 2nd lap or the 1st lap, and then Brad passed me, so I tried my best. I caught up, I sat behind him for quite a long time, and then eventually I got him here at the end, but it was good.
A heartbroken Brad Cox in second.
100 meters to go. I came out, I was leading, and there was like a ledge, and I just shut off to miss the ledge because I hit it one lap and I was on the front and he just squeezed by me. So hey, hats off to Davin, he rode incredible today. I mean, that was my absolute maximum, and yeah, I was it wasn't enough to win, so hats off to him. But yeah, look, I'll take a second. We saw in the championship leading, so happy with that. And now we go to KZN for the double header, and yeah, hometown, so always better when you're in hometown.
An emphatic victory for Matty Wilson in the 125s put him top of the charts.
Yeah, no, the trap was rough today, but managed to bring home the win.
For the seniors, Wade Blau went 2 for 2 with another win.
That was tough, but I actually got stronger towards the end. I think I could have maybe done another lap, but yeah, that was tough. But thanks to the guys from the Roost for a great bike and a great event to everyone. Thank you.
Out of the seniors into the Masters, and the master on the day was Big Peter Hall. Put one over on Farmer this time around. Here's confirmation of the results then for the OR1 class coming out of Rhino Park. Sharon Moore, second place this time around to Kenny Gilbert. He got the big win ahead of JC Ninoba. And Veno Delport keeps a good tally going with the number 4 spot. OR2's big story in the day and a massive win overall, but winning out in his class for the OR2's Jared Kutsia gets it ahead of Brett Swanepoel. That'll tighten up the championship and it's a return to the podium once again for Taki Bodjadges ahead of the brawler Ian Roll in 4th. OR3 class that went down to the wire this time around. Davin Cocker got it done, but Brad Cox should still be in good nick for the championship. Peltzer now puts his name in the hat, 3rd place ahead of Peter Karam, and Quinton Fencer did a great turnaround, his top result in 5th. For the high school class, Matty Wilson in the 125s was light years ahead of the rest of the field. Dumal Duplessis also got his highest ever national finish, along with debutant Derek Karam, and Dylan Cox, round number 1 winner, didn't find the running good. He got 4th. For the seniors, the unstoppable Wade Blau gets it done once again, ahead of Deon de Toy, who comes back with a bang. And then in the Masters, Peter Hall ahead of Farmer, Van Veek and Poole. Amazing racing action here, proudly brought to you by Pepsi Plastics in association with Yamaha and KTM.